Okay, everybody, we are live. This is big, massive news. Elon just dropped a post on X talking about FSD, and he's incredibly bullish. This kind of statements he made is crazy. We're simulcasting this on both my channel and my and Future Aza, which is Brian White. We also have as a guest with us Larry Goldberg. This is a big one. I think so. You guys can tell me if I'm overreacting, but let's take a look at exactly what Elon Musk just said. He said this, right? 12.4.1 is going to release today to Tesla employees. Okay, well, many of us felt that this was now delayed by at least a couple weeks. If that goes well, then it will be released to a limited number of external customers this weekend. Fantastic. Fast move from employees to customers. There are a massive number of changes to this build. It should arguably be called version 13, but we're sticking with 12. He said this a few times before. And so now, okay, we've heard you say that a few times. Two other versions are in earlier stages of testing, 12.5 and 12.6, which could be called version 14 and 15. So this statement alone, we should dive deep on because he's now kind of hinting that he thinks that 12.5 and 12.6 are not just going to be, minor. It's going to be as big as the 12 move to 13 or to 12.4. Now, here's the big statement. We are starting to get to the point where once known bugs are fixed, it will take over a year of driving to get even one intervention. It will take over a year of driving to get to even one intervention. We're starting to get to that point. Oh my God, this is crazy. This is massive. I mean, I was debating, should we call this FSD is solved? Is that what he's saying?
He said it will be solved. He didn't say it is solved.
It will take. No. We are starting to get to the point where once known bugs are fixed, it will take.
It will, yeah. Just keeping you honest, Herbert. I mean, that's my job. I'm just keeping you honest.
And I will point out that Herbert really wanted to put FSD solved in the thumbnail and the title, and Larry and I both pushed back a little bit and said will be solved, on the brink of solved. But the generational improvement between version 11 and version 12, at least for me, was mind-blowing. Elon said your mind would be blown, and for the first time it actually was. Other people saw smaller improvements. Omar's catalog, Omar, enjoyed such success on version 11 that his jump to version 12 was like, yeah, I guess it's better a bit. Right. But it was very, very good for you. Version 11 appeared to me to be overfitted for Bay Area driving. So he was in the exact right place geographically to get the most out of version 11, where the rest of us were using a generalized solution that didn't always work in the places that we drove. To me, version 11 was stressful. I would use it on the highways. I would sometimes play around with it in town, but version 12 is not stressful. I asked the gang in the car. We drove up to University Village last weekend. We did 2 hours each direction, a little more. And I said, how much are you worried that this car is going to do something crazy and cause us to get in an accident? And everyone agreed, no percent, 0%. We don't even think about it because I'm supervising behind the wheel and it doesn't do crazy things. It does. Now, to say that there will be, a year between interventions ignores the fact that a lot of people have their own driving style. If you and I go for a drive together and we're on full Herbert driving, I will have thoughts that I would do things differently. I would have changed lanes here. I would have gone a little faster or slower here. And there are people who will still intervene in that regard. I am still on the highway adjusting my speed a little so that I can feel like it's driving more like me. I don't count those as interventions.
That's not an intervention. No.
I count those as suggestions.
Yeah. This is why I'm going to push back to you both, okay? Larry, this is the first time, right? You correct me if I'm wrong. First time you have Elon giving you a data point that he's not giving us before, which is miles per intervention. It will take over a year of driving to get to one intervention. He's made that statement now. So what is FSD solved if it isn't 1 year of driving before you get one intervention? And yeah, it's not the kind of intervention you were talking about, Brian. Come on. We're talking about safety, right? Not it's a drive like yeah.
I think, I've been interpreting Elon's prognostications for years now,
Yeah.
ever since the launch of Falcon 1. When the first failure of Falcon 1, when he posted his blog post. And he said, we are starting to get to those were the first words he did in that paragraph. So the implication is we're not yet at that point. So I would say what he's telling us is that he's feeling very confident about getting to that point. He thinks that we're on the road to that point, but we're not yet at that point. So I think you're making a leap of faith, and it's a good
no,
leap
no.
of faith.
Yeah, I'm not saying that today FSD solved. Not saying that at all. But okay, let's be clear. What
But
I
if
am
it's
saying.
essentially solved internally, what I hear him saying is we believe it is more or less solved on the internal build that's going out.
No.
And we can see which pieces are missing. And I am fine with it not engaging while it's still in my garage or something like fine, I'll take it to the street and turn it on. But you know that is the next thing that's coming, is all of those parts that get you closer and closer to your garage, to your parking spot, whatever they may be. So I think those are a lot easier to solve than the general problem, the general equation of being out on the road and driving. So to me, this is very big news.
Very big news. Okay, so let's just repeat what I'm saying here. He's saying this very clearly. Once known bugs are fixed, so it's not fixed yet. It's not yet ready today. But once known bugs are fixed, but they know the bugs. Once those are fixed, we're starting to get to the point where it will take over a year of driving to get to even one intervention. Anyway, so my point being that for him to say one intervention over a year, that's such a bold statement. That's such a big thing. That's is he just making a leap? But I think for me, the big reason why this is such a big deal is people were starting to get doubts that because 12.4 was taking a lot longer than we were expecting. We were expecting it to be released 2 weeks ago, and then it didn't release last week. And then everybody was going, okay, if that was really being taken longer, it must be that there was so much bugs that they didn't feel it was safe. He's now confirming it's coming out today. Then for him to now say he's sticking to his guns. He's sticking to his guns that it's arguably could call version 13, which previously he had said that that's 5 to 10 times more better, more higher quality than the 12. And then he says 12.5, 12.6 could be version 14, 15. Those are again statements saying that when we get to 12.5, which they're testing now, it's not just going to be a small change. It could still be that exponential jump, just like we saw from 12 to 12.4 will be the same big jump. These are very bullish statements. I'm proud or happy that he said this. Were you guys getting any doubts at all?
I was certainly not getting any doubts. I mean, we knew this was coming. We knew this
See,
was coming.
you and I were having this conversation. We did not know this was coming. Tell me what you mean.
I mean, we saw the promise of version 12 or full stack, nothing but net. We from the drive that he did in Palo Alto, we were expecting it. It took a while. It came out. We saw the enormous improvement. We spoke in our conversations about 1 to 3 years a year ago.
Yeah.
And I said to you when version 12 came out, I said, we're getting to the shorter end of this process. And I expect that by the end of this year and early next year, we're going to be in a position to roll out robo taxis. And I think we're going to be there. We're not there yet. We have to see this new version come out. There's going to be some disappointments. There's going to be some excitement. It's going to be the next step. We're in a March of Nines. March of Nines is it's a tricky thing, but we're in the March of Nines. There's no doubt about it. Whereas we were not in version 11. But I think we're right to be very bullish, but we're not right to declare victory.
Right. We're not saying declare victory, but this is, you're saying March of Nines, which is what everybody, we're saying, okay, that's why it might take months or years. But for him to say that we already know the bugs, that once these bugs that are known are fixed, then we're going to get to the metric of 1 year of driving to get even one
Yeah.
intervention. That means that March of Nines has, many nines have been solved to get to that stat.
Let me tell you why I'm skeptical that we're going to be there on this release.
Not this release. I think he's referring to 12.5,
in
12.6.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you why I'm skeptical. In my neighborhood, which is not in California, it's in North Carolina, which is in the South, despite its name. There are very poorly constructed lane changes, lanes that just disappear, lanes that, go into the woods. If you don't change lanes in time and there's no warning, you drive into a set of trees. And the value of, Brian has talked about how good it is in California. The problem in the rest of the country, and I've driven the whole country, I've driven, coast to coast multiple times now. I think I've been to many of the states, not all the states, but many of the states, most of the representative states. And I find that the main reason why it does so well in California, which I readily attest to, is because of the extraordinarily good road markings and road conventions in California. For whatever reason, California really pays attention, never, marks the roads very carefully, and is very consistent about its lane protocols. That's not true in the rest of the country. In North Carolina, in my neighborhood, I can't get out of my neighborhood even in version 12. In version 12, I've solved 4 or 5 of the 6 or 7 exits and entrances to my neighborhood because of the lane problems. But I've still got 2 or 3 outstanding that are as yet unsolved. Those are the problem children that have to be solved. So these outliers are everywhere. I mean, I was in Copenhagen yesterday for several of the last couple of days. There are corners where there are 6 different traffic lights, for the pedestrians, for the bicycles, for the buses, for the cars, for the right turns, for the left turn. I mean, it is incredibly complicated. So those are the issues that have to be dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, localization issues, but there's also, this problem of unique mapping of both signals, but also of road conventions.
Mm-hmm.
And those are going to be the tough ones.
So, right. And so the most important thing, I think, right, when he says this is that they're going to roll it out probably city by city or state by state. So maybe they'll do California first and then have that statistic, and then they'll buy some time to finally get there. Let me share a little bit more about this. So this is what happened today. Elon Musk posted this on X this morning saying that 12.4.1 is going to be now available to Tesla employees, external customers this weekend. That's delayed from what we know. And then he's saying, though, that, he's still saying massive number of changes to this build. But the big news is this, that, that they're already testing 12.5 and 12.6. And he's saying that they're going to be pretty big updates because he calls them version 14 and 15. But he said this, once known bugs are fixed, we are starting to get to the point where it will take over a year of driving to get even one intervention. So this is something he posted 2 weeks ago, May 14th. And he said 12.4 goes internal release this weekend. So this is 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And we were expecting it to go then, and it wasn't. And then he said 5 to 10 times improvement in miles compared to 12.3. 12.5 will be out in late June. So I think we can safely assume now that this has all been delayed. And then the other thing that was interesting was we did see this refresh Model 3 was spotted, and it looked like didn't have side mirrors, and it had these new locations for the cameras. So this was what we saw here. You can see up here, there's a potential camera here. There's a camera at the back and the rear. There's a camera that's sticking out of here. So all of these photos, like, why are they testing this vehicle with all these cameras? And people assume that they are associated with the Robo taxi. And this is, Texas, right? This is where it is. So I think, it could very well be that they are going to roll this out in one state at the first. But so, Larry, you said that we already knew this was coming. You're not jumping up and down like I am, that we got confirmation or close to confirmation. Not saying that it's done. I'm not saying it's anywhere near being done. I'm just saying that I'd rather have heard this today than not hear anything.
Well, I would jump in there and say, I think the reason Larry and I aren't jumping up and down is our knees are not in the kind of shape that yours are. So we have to reserve that kind of optimism for moments of genuine celebration. When he's saying that you could go a year between interventions, think about how it performs on highways already and has for years. I don't remember the last time I had an intervention on a highway. Even in construction zones, for me at least, where I live at least, it does very, very well. And the fact that we're using the version 12 stack as AI means that if you go out and do the exact same drive 100 times in a row, you might get 100 slightly different outcomes because it is the butterfly effect. Every little thing, it could be the time, it could be the daylight hitting certain vehicles. It could be that the vehicle is in a different place by an inch. It is making the best assessment for the conditions every single time. So I just don't remember the last time I had an intervention on a highway. I guess I would say it's when the water spraying off the semi-trucks gets so extreme that even I can't see. I had a situation yesterday or the day before where we were driving back and it was raining, or not raining, it was foggy. And the car decided, I'm going to go ahead and lower the maximum speed. And I looked at it and said, that is exactly right. This is a good maximum speed based on the road conditions. And I thought that was an incredibly good parallel to what human behavior would be in that situation. And I didn't need to intervene. I didn't need to tell it to slow down or speed up or do anything differently. It just had it under control.
Yeah, I'm not subscribed to what Brian is saying. I think that the March of Nines really talks about, the outliers are very rare, but they're there, and they would make robotaxi very difficult to implement. So we have to get, out to the very limits, to the kinds of limits where that doesn't happen. And right now it happens at a very much higher rate than I think we could sustain in a true robotaxi world. What happens in a robotaxi when you really genuinely do get stuck? In the one in, and if you get into the point where it's a 1 in 10 million chance, given the number of robotaxis we intend to have on the road and the number of miles they do, it's going to happen several times a day across the country. What do? Do you have an app where you can tell the car how to resolve the problem? Do you have what do you do? These are open questions that haven't been answered and have to be addressed. But in the meantime, I think we're going to have a really, really, really good FSD, supervised FSD capability. And it's getting better all the time to the extent that it's amazing. Okay. I think I'm saying the same thing as Brian's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but your accent makes it sound so much more important, and I love it.
Love it. Okay, so let's stay away from calling it Robo taxi or FSD solve. Let's just step back and realize what he just said, right? This is the important things, right? So first of all, it's going to be released to employees today. So that is hard for him at this point to miss that deadline. And then if that goes well, so he's not promising, this will be released to external customers this weekend. We don't know yet. So if we do see it this weekend, which is, a few days after going out today, it still shows you how fast they're moving from employees to or external customers. Although it is a limited number. Gotcha. Great. He still then maintains that it is version 13. So as in saying, he's trying to indicate that this is more than just a point release, because so many changes was changed for this build. He did say in previous posts, right, that 12.4 is they had to rewrite, retrain, I think was the word, retrain a lot of the neural nets. Whenever these releases are this big, they need to retrain all the neural nets now. And so that's great confirmation, right? A great sense here that he still is saying. Now, when he said it's 5 to 10 times better than version 13 or version 11, I'm getting my mix up now. Version 12.3, 12.4 is 5 to 10 times better than 12.3. That, we don't know what that means. What's 5 to 10 times better? Because he never gave us a metric before. Now he's giving us a metric of sometime in the future, it will take over a year of driving to get one intervention per year. That to me means that they know how many interventions, how many miles before intervention. I just took a quick look here. The average driver drives 13,500 miles per year. So he's telling you that it'll be typically one intervention for every 13,500 miles. That's the first time I actually have a real number here. And it's intervention per mile, not just safety, right? Because I've always thought that was what he was tracking to, how much safer it is than an average human. Then he said that 12.5 and 12.6 are being tested now. He's confirmed that. So they have a view of what the platform's going to be 4 months from now, 2 to 4 months away from now. He then said that once the known bugs are fixed, which means to say that they actually know the bugs. And once these bugs that they already know are fixed, and then Ashok Eliswamy before had said, we already have a dashboard, we know the top bugs, and we know how long it takes to fix a bug. And so, because it's basically this neural net, they feed it videos to solve that problem, and then they know that it solves it. So they know the bugs. And once they fix those known bugs, then he's giving you this number of 1 year of driving. And so just by breaking it down based on what we learned on this one post, I'm not saying FSD solved. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying this is very, very positive news. Not just a news. This is big, giant news is what I'm saying.
But it's exactly the news that we're expecting.
What?
Well, who's we and when did we expect it? Because I did expect this news. I just don't know when I expected it. And even though, there's a lot of things I expect that I'm still allowed to get excited about. The big thing I'd like to point out is that an intervention doesn't mean a safety critical intervention. It could be something as simple as the car is just pointed, at a barricade where the road has been closed, and maybe it doesn't read it properly and you need to take over. I see people saying, well, if it's once every million miles or 10 million miles, when it does happen, the person's going to be too complacent and everyone's going to die. And that is not how I see it happening. I don't see that intervention being safety critical. I see it being a matter of, if there's no human in the car might sit there for an unforgivably long time before it finds its own solution. But I do think that it would still find those solutions. It's just a question of how long it would take. And again, on the highway, I have absolute confidence in the vehicle already. I had a chance to drive a Ford Lightning equipped with Blue Cruise a while back, less than a year ago. And we drove from 2 hours on I-5 on approved roads, and we had disengagements. It disengaged itself because the bend in the road was slightly too great. And that was a little crazy, I thought. Boy, it's great that you're allowed to take your hands off the wheel, but don't do that. Don't trust it necessarily. And that's the easiest kind of driving there is, where with even autopilot, my confidence in the system is very high because everything I have seen has led me to that confidence. So I'm less worried about that and more curious to see what we get with 12.4.
Let me ask it this way, okay? Let me ask you the guys this question this way. Let's just take this number here. One intervention of it will take over a year of driving to get even one intervention. Let's assume, what does he mean by intervention, right? Like you said, is he referring to a critical intervention or just an intervention, right? If there's no driver in the car, it'll go a year before somebody we need to intervene. Let's take that for the face value. Do you guys consider that is a stat that's enough to be called robo-taxi?
I think so.
Yeah, I just don't know. Am I able to get out of the car? Can I send it across town? That's to me the measure.
What?
If we're talking robo-taxi, what is a robo-taxi? Can the car drive without a person? Can I go to sleep? Can I hit the I'm feeling lucky button and see where I wake up?
So I'm asking you, if that was the statistic, and they said this robo-taxi, you won't need to do an intervention for a year of driving, is that enough? Is that because the two statistics that I think we're following is safety, right? How much safer it is than humans, and then the other one is interventions per miles. Correct? Those are the two.
Who's taking the liability? If
Well,
I'm taking
that's my question to you. If it is one intervention per year, is that robo-taxi, and that Tesla could now take the liability for that?
I think one crash. Well, is it safety critical? Is it a crash a year? Because then the answer is no. That's too many.
You think one crash a year is too many?
Oh, absolutely. You need to go 10 years between crashes. I mean, humans go. How often do you think humans crash? It's not very often. And I guess we should define what a crash is, because if I send my car out to make me $40 overnight and it comes back with curb rash, I'm going to be a little annoyed. Because I'm very good at protecting my curb.
Yeah, Herbert, be realistic. The average driver does not crash once a year.
Yeah, it
Now,
says
intervention
here.
does not mean a crash. So intervention means you have to correct the lane. The car runs out of lane. That's the biggest intervention I have. Car runs out of lane. Well, what would happen is the car would have to slam on the brakes hurriedly, be very uncomfortable, doubt it would crash. Then the car is going to have to reverse out of that and get out of that problem, which I think it would do. So that would be acceptable. What would not be acceptable is if the intervention entailed, potential harm to people. So you have to be a little bit more, consistent or a little more specific. I think one intervention a year is a little too high for robotaxi, but I think it's getting close, because the next 9 is, one intervention in 10 years. So, so you're really close at that point. You have to just get to that next 9.
Yeah, great point. I mean, the point is that, he says we are starting to get to the point where it will take over a year to get one intervention. We're starting to get there. Okay, so let's say that this takes 6 months from now. Well, in the next 6 months, they'll probably be solving more of the known bugs or discovering more known bugs. And then it becomes, right? That's how they'll get much higher than this. This is a good starting point. And I fully expect, and I think most people I've interviewed fully expect, that when they roll this out, it will be in controlled environments, in controlled cities. And so it'll be, much more, and then they very, very likely will still have teleoperators.
I disagree with everybody. I disagree with everybody who talks about controlled cities and controlled environments.
What?
I think it'll be released in cities that approve it, and it has nothing to do with controlled environment. I think that if you solve FSD, you solve it everywhere, certainly in the United States, not Alaska, but certainly in the United States.
It depends on when they want to do it. So, Steve Mark Ryan had a very good point. If Tesla wanted to, they could launch a robotaxi business today, just like Waymo and Cruise does, in very specific geographies with
I don't agree with
teleoperators.
that.
But they
I don't
chose
agree.
not. They chose not to do that because they're trying to solve it for everywhere. But even when they do, they could choose to say it's going to be in this city, and we're going to roll it out here because
That's
I've
not
got
gonna
approval
happen.
from regulatory. So you think it's going to be like one day they're going to go, on this day you can take a robotaxi anywhere in the United States? That's not the way it's going to happen.
Anywhere that they can get approval, they will do it.
No.
Period.
Okay. Not for the first pilot, not for the first rollout. It's going to be very controlled.
I disagree.
Because if they want to do what you're saying, then you're right. It can't be just one intervention per year. It's going to have to be 1 in 17 years. And then we can do what you're saying.
And that's how Elon wants to do it, and that's how Elon is going to do it.
Okay.
Look, I could be wrong. You could be right. Everybody could be. I could be. The lone voice, and I could be wrong. I could be the lone voice, but I think I'm right.
Yeah, I think that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just did look it up, and in the U.S., the car insurance industry estimates that the average driver will file a claim for a collision once every 17.9 years.
That sounds more right to me. And that, of course, doesn't include all the little dings. I had a buddy who would sometimes rub his bumper against the edge of the concrete in his very small, very narrow parking garage. I think on this panel, what we have is someone who's extremely optimistic, me in the middle, and Larry, who's a little bit less optimistic.
Be very clear. I'm not optimistic. I did not say robotaxi and FSD solved. I'm saying this news tells you that we're very much still on path. And this is the first time that you've got Elon telling you that he thinks it's going to be 1 year before you get one intervention. And that is fantastic. We finally got that number, which means that they know how many miles interventions per mile. They know what the bugs are. They know the rate of improvement of this. That's what I'm saying. In fact, you've got Larry's the one who thinks that when they launch this, it's going to be like much more wider than I'm saying. So I'm not optimistic. I'm just saying this news is pretty big. Yeah.
It's going to be limited to jurisdictions where it's allowed. But it will not be limited. It will not be limited for technical reasons, in my judgment. I think it'll be limited by. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, please. Well, I was just going to say on the insurance front, do you think Tesla owning their own insurance carrier is going to play into FSD deployment in a broader scale? Are they going to use that as a means of self-insuring? How will that symbiosis occur?
I think that's a complicated answer. So we just heard yesterday that they hired a person to work originally from Geico to help with Tesla insurance to negotiate with other insurance companies. And then there was, I think it's a rumor, I don't know if it's fact, but they said that the reason why Tesla insurance hasn't spread as fast as we were expecting is because the cost for Tesla to repair the Tesla car is a lot more than they were expecting, right? And so they aren't able to do it in a profitable way. So if this is true, then they're not going to launch this if there's one collision which is not what he said, it's one intervention, but let's say it's one collision every year. That's not good enough because the damage and the cost to Tesla to ensure that would be still too high. Although I think safety to the human is the one that matters more. Because the revenue from the robotaxi can probably cover any kind of excess collision costs. It's the safety to the human that's what is got to be critically important.
I was looking at, when you look at the Mercedes Level 3, they will take responsibility in rare occurrences where the system can even be turned on. But it costs thousands a year to get it. It's only available on the most expensive version of the most expensive cars. And if you run the numbers, it is cheaper for them to buy a special insurance policy on those rare situations and just cover it if it crashes. What Tesla's trying to do instead is have a car that doesn't need all that premium to cover insurance. It just works. And to the points we were saying earlier, this is something that will be more universal, right? Just like Stephen Mark Ryan was saying, they could digital Sherpa this and have hidden teleoperators behind the scenes making it actually work, but that's not scalable. We need something that is, if it works everywhere, it works. And then you don't need the teleoperators, or, I mean, maybe have a couple of emergency people, but you don't need.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Certainly the same kind of scale.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So for those who are just tuning in, we are debating whether or not this particular post by Elon today is considered to be a big deal or nothing burger, because we knew that this was going to come. Of course not. So this is what it says. Elon says 12.4.1. So obviously that is not just 12.4. They made some bug fixes. It's being released today to Tesla employees. And if that goes well, so question mark, it'll be released to a limited number of external customers this weekend. Now, him saying it's released today, that means that it's, it's hard for him to be overjudging, that it's very likely it will happen. There are a massive number of changes to this build. It should arguably be called version 13. We're sticking to 12. This is something he has said, and maybe he's overpromising again, but that is what he said. And there's no metric to it. We don't know what that is, just a statement. But then he says 2 other versions are in earlier stages of testing, 12.5 and 12.6. So we've known that Tesla has access to future versions, and they're testing those also. So they have visibility of what's going to be coming. And he says that they could be called version 14 and 15, kind of insinuating that they're also as big of a change as 12.3 was to 12.4, which he has said before in previous posts was 5 to 10 times better. So are we going to see in 12.5 a 5 to 10 times better improvement than the version 14, version 12.4? So we don't know, but okay, at least it's still a signal to me that it's not just a point release. It's, in his mind, it's a big jump. I wouldn't go and say it's going to be 5 to 10 times bigger, but it's a bigger jump than a point release. Then this is the big statement that got me, makes me very excited. We are starting to get to the point where once known bugs are fixed, it will take over a year of driving to get even one intervention. Okay. To me, this is such a big statement. This is the first time he has said a metric, a year of driving to get one intervention, which means they know how many interventions it is per miles. And he's also indicating that they already know the bugs. If they've known the bugs are fixed, once these bugs are fixed, we'll get there. We don't know how long, but we're starting to get to that point. So he sees it coming. And so that's all I'll say. I'm not saying that Robo taxis here or FSD solved, but it shows that we're on path. And it shows that they know how to get there. And it shows that the improvements could still be not confirmed, but the improvements could still be exponential, which is what we wanted to hear and see. So for me, it's a big deal.
We want to get to one intervention every 20 years plus. Brian has said to us that it's a 17.5 year, claim frequency for the average driver. We want to get a lot better than that, but if we can get to one every 10 years, that's pretty good. We get to one every 100 years, that's the goal. So we have 2 nines once we get to the point that Elon is speaking about. So
I disagree that we don't need to wait until we have only one. First of all, that 1 in 17.9 years is collisions. This is an intervention. So this one intervention per year could very well already be, I don't know, one collision every 5 years. I don't know, right? It's not just 1 year. That's a collision versus intervention.
It's worse than, it's more than just an intervention, because a collision, because we don't want the driver, the passenger, to be stuck in the middle of nowhere with no, with the car not doing anything or not knowing what to do. So it really has to be the equivalent of an accident. It has to be no intervention, period. The car has to
Well,
operate
this is
without
where
a mark.
I'm saying to you that I disagree with you guys that there will be teleoperators. Why not? Just like you have, what is that called in the Ford cars where you can press the button and have
Oh,
a
you're
phone
thinking
call.
OnStar
OnStar?
in the GMs?
Why can't we have that? And that's not okay, it's stuck. So then somebody
Because
teleoperates it out
because
of there. There's no reason why you can't do that. It's like a
it's
few times.
operationally incredibly complicated and very expensive, and
It's
it
already
kind
being
of
done
robs.
today with
I know,
Waymo and Cruise.
and they're losing
But
their
that's because
pants.
they have one intervention every 3 miles. That is what they reported. One intervention every 2 or 3 miles. That's why it's ridiculous. It's almost like a player playing a video game.
I don't believe Elon would subscribe to that. I don't believe Elon would subscribe to this business of teleoperators. I think Elon wants this thing to be, and
For
should
those
be, in my
edge
judgment.
cases. Yeah. Okay.
I think it should be completely and totally autonomous, period. And I don't see why it should be. And if we are truly at a point where we get one intervention a year, we only need two nines to get us to one in every 10 years and then one every 100 years. That's all it needs.
So
And that's where
what
we need to be.
Just 2 nines.
No, but we're debating is like, do we wait for that before they even launch the first pilot, or they go ahead and do the launch of the pilot this year with this statistic and have these caveats, like I'm saying, a city with a teleoperator just in case for those edge cases you're talking about. But you can probably do this now if they're already doing it for Waymo and Cruise that has an intervention every 3 miles. But in a city, it's a very controlled, like you were saying earlier, how if you've got very clear markings, this performs much better. So you choose the city that gives you regulation that has very clear markings. And for that, maybe it's more than just 1 year of driving because it's so clear. Like, when you're going like around the around the block of a city, it's so pretty obvious what to do there and straightforward. Okay, we'll see. But they're not going to wait. They're not going to wait
on this one. No, I don't. But
for
setting
decades.
up a whole teleoperating network system creates issues with scale, and it would be tough to do in terms of logistics and
which
even
is
philosophy.
Which is worse? Wait until you have all these weird edge cases you describe, and then it's got to solve that before we launch Robotaxi, or go ahead and do that with the small number of teleoperators just in case it does get stuck.
And we don't know what the number would be.
If it's one intervention every year, you don't need.
That's a lot. That's a lot. If you have 4,000 cars operating in Chicago, you probably need 100 to 200 teleoperators in the city of Chicago.
Well, and if you've got 4 million cars, that's 4 million interventions a year. That's a lot.
I'm expecting 100,000 cars for the city of Chicago. Remember, that was the number that James Dama said. He looked up how many Ubers needed to service the ride-hailing service in the city of Chicago. His number was 100,000.
Right. But the one intervention per year figure is based on 13,000 miles, not on 40 or 50,000 miles. So I think it would be, but even if it was just 100,000, that's 100,000 interventions a year just in Chicago. That's a lot of teleoperators.
It's more than 100,000 interventions, Brian, because it's literally each car is driving the equivalent of 4 or 5 people daily drive. So you're talking about, a huge number of interventions. I don't think it's sustainable.
Okay,
I think we have to get to this 100-year mark, and I think it's doable.
Okay, well, so today is June, and when he says it will take over a year to driving to get there, I'm assuming he means, let's say, 12.6 at the most confident level. 12.6, what do you guys think that goes out? If 12.4.1 is going out today, June 5th, 12.6 may take past August, July and August, right? Assume, month each. Sure. Let's assume that by then so we're not ready for Robotaxi in June or August because it's only 1 year and you're saying it needs to be 100 years. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, so you're saying robotaxi won't be rolled out until 10 years from now.
No, I think
Okay.
mid 2025 is my number, and it's been my number for a while. I think it remains my number.
Okay.
I think we can do 2 orders of magnitude within a year.
Okay.
So
And
I
I
did
think
see
that,
it. Yeah.
sorry,
An interesting comment that just came in, I just saw, was what if it doesn't require a human teleoperator, but a much more powerful neural net intervention? So your car can't solve it, but it can bounce over to the cloud, and the cloud can solve that intervention in the way a human teleoperator would. I think it was BB that said it. Oh no, maybe?
Josh
No, I'm
Solway
not
said,
sure. But it's why not?
why not? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That certainly, I think that solves the teleoperator problem. I think that if there were a means to transfer the inference to a more powerful inference computer to solve, a situation where a car is stuck or is in difficulty, that could be very interesting. But still, I mean, we're only 2 nines away.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that we want to jump the gun with something. This whole business of agents operating, blah blah blah.
Okay.
That's
That's fine with me. Yeah, you're saying that mid 2025 is when you're expecting it to roll out, and I'm fine with that. Honestly, telling you the truth, that's an amazing number. That's an amazing date. So, do we not all agree? Did we all agree that what we saw here today means that the neural net is working? That it looks like that they know the bugs, and he knows that if we solve that, it gives you some sort of metric. In his case, he said this: a year of driving before you get one intervention, which means that we're on our way. What is your confidence level when you see something like this, that we're going to, be able to solve robotaxi, even if it's mid 2025, even if it's mid 2026, but it looks like we're on path? Or do you still need to obviously see 12.4? You need to see the jump in improvement, because he might say 5 to 10 times better, but when we look at it, we may go, yeah, wasn't, he's over exaggerated again.
I would say that with 12.3, to me, it was mind blowing. But I would be very curious to hear from Larry how you would describe the steps between here and 2025. You said when you think we will be seeing this in deployment. What are the big milestones between here and there that you're looking for to know that it's on track?
So Brian, my own confidence level climbed enormously when I drove 12.x the first time. I think I don't even remember the sequence now. It's kind of a little, at my age, these things just merge together. But the difference between 11 and the sequences of 11 and the jump in improvement was dramatic. What I'm looking for is the next point release, or the next 2-point releases, to see if there's consistent improvement in the quality. I've only experienced one 1-point jump in version 12, and that was pretty darn good, I will tell you that. Although there were some problems, but I need to see how well it does, and I also want to see the full stack in operation. That's very important on the highway. So the integrated full stack. If we can continue this rate of improvement, I feel very confident of, within the next year or two. I mean, my original timeline was 1 to 3 years. We're halfway through the first year of that 1 to 3 years. I feel more confident about my 1 to 3 years. That's what I can say.
Okay. I want to push back again, guys. Sorry, but let's stop and think about what you just said. What you both just said. You guys are talking about your anecdotal experience. When I jumped into 12, I saw it, I felt it, I can feel it. When I see the next improvements, I'm going to know now that I can see it. I want to watch for that. When what we really need to be looking at is, what does Tesla report? And they tell you the actual metric, which they know. And they're sharing that now to you today. It's saying that at some point, he sees that they will take one intervention per year. That's the metric that we know. It's not, oh, wait till I see 12.5 and 12.6. It's the actual metrics that they can repeat to you. What?
Please do.
How can you
Please
push back on what I just said? How can you possibly push back?
Because
Just watch.
you're missing two important, and this takes us back to the beginning of our conversation. Could you put that back on the screen, please? We are starting to get, followed by, it will take over a year. So, sorry, once known bugs are fixed. We are starting to get and once known. So you're making a statement as if we are
No.
at the point and
didn't say
that
that.
known bugs.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I didn't say
All
that.
he's saying is that
Yes.
the progress is really good, and these are the steps that we have to take to get to that next level. He's not saying they're at the next level.
We're not there at all. We're nowhere near there at all. I'm just saying that instead of you saying, wait till I get my experience of 12.6, then I'll tell you my confidence level will go up. I'm saying he is reporting actual metrics.
Let Brian be the umpire of this conversation.
So,
Brian, am I right, or is Herbert right?
I never said.
I think Larry's going to be disappointed because I think 1 year of intervention requires 365 cars driving for 1 day. I think we'll be able to extrapolate from the data that just sheer miles. It's easy for Tesla to say that you can go this many miles without an accident because they have enough vehicles in the fleet to get good data that is fair and representative. So I think we will know a lot quicker whether it works or not. It doesn't take very many mishaps for the numbers to blow up in their face and see that they've done something desperately wrong. But if the new version, if 12.4 comes out, 12.4.1 comes out, and they see, oh my gosh, today we had 0 collisions, this is a very good sign. And there's enough vehicles out there that I think getting reliable data quickly will be easy. So,
but you're saying the same thing I am, Brian. We're not at that point where we're getting the data.
Definitely not, but we will be soon. I mean, we gotta release 12.4 to the masses to get the data, but and we don't know what 12.4 is because I can't see behind that particular curtain. All right, cool.
Well, I think we're at a. I think we're early in this 12 game, and I think that there's enough hedging in what Elon is saying. Say we have to wait and see. It's exciting, but it's not there yet.
No, of course not. No one's saying it's there. Not me. I'm not saying it's all already here. Not me. It says we are starting to get there. And I'm just saying that he's actually giving you a metric, which means that they are able to track the metric, which means that they know the bugs and they've already feel that way. Even at the earnings call, Ashok Alaswamy said, we have a dashboard of all the bugs and we're going to go through the top bugs and try to get them down. They'll probably discover new ones, March of 9s, right? But it's like they can already see the progress. They can estimate it out. Maybe it's not going to be ready until 8.8. Maybe it won't be ready until next year. Totally agree. Not saying whether they're at all. So what the news is today is that 12.4 is going to be released to employees. That is the news. But the second bit is this confidence of this statement. And maybe it is just another Elon saying, trying to get people excited. FSD is going to be solved this year. Maybe. But this is the first time I'm seeing him give you an actual metric. So this is something we can measure against. Is it really one intervention per year? Because if that's the case, then all of our experiences can actually debunk that immediately. Because I can say, well, I just had an intervention And so it's nowhere near. He did not say it's here today. It's not here with 12.4.1. It may not even be here till 12.6. It may be much later. He's saying we're starting to get to the point that we will be able to get there. So that to me is the confidence level. And that's all I'm talking about. If I can see the confidence level that they're reporting, then the chance is that it's maybe going to happen, not that it's happening. So, all right. And then, obviously seeing these kinds of cars like this, again, minor, but it's still a signal that there's probably is a robo-taxi that's designed that will be unveiled on August 8th. It's almost, 5% chance, 10% chance that there is no robo-taxi unveiled on August 8th. But it's very likely that there is a robo-taxi design. And I'm the one, guys, that has been pushed back so many people, even just in a space I was in a few days ago. I am expecting on August 8th, very minor. It's going to be a show. Here's the reveal of the car. That I'm very confident about, that they may demo the app. They may demo a ride. That's it. Other people have been saying like they're expecting big things happening, more than just this. I'm the one that pushed back on that, guys. So be very clear. I'm not saying that robotaxi is here because of what he just said. Confidence level is certainly high, though. So,
yeah, I know that in the past, some of us, definitely myself, sometimes, definitely Herbert at times, have been overly optimistic with our expectations at these big events. So I am bringing my expectations all the way down to just saying, I don't know what's going to be unveiled, but I am here for it. And I will be heading to Texas for the event before I have a ticket, but I'm going to, of course, try desperately to get in to that one.
Okay. Let's end it with this reminder to people, because I think few people know this. But Baidu, a Chinese autonomous vehicle company, they're known as like the Google of China. Their general manager of their autonomous driving technology department actually told the Shanghai News, this is very credible news. He actually said to them that they'd be open to cooperation with Tesla's FSD. This is the leading. They're even like double the size of Waymo and Cruise. They are the leading robotaxi vehicle out there. Why would they be open to partnering with Tesla? So we're starting to hear more and more of these kinds of partnerships, people being open to this. And that means that they probably can see that these guys are heading in the right direction. That could be as big of a news as anything else. Any last comments, Larry and Brian?
I'm just excited, and I'm super glad that Larry could join us today. It's so good to see you. There's a lot of question marks moving forward on FSD, and I just don't think we're able to see over the horizon just yet. I can see that there's smoke. I know that there's something there. I don't know how big the fire is. I don't know what is burning, but we're getting there. We're going to see it soon, and then we'll actually know. And once we reach that tipping point, once we're past the inflection, there's no going back. From there, it just gets better and safer. We just have to finally crest that hill.
I mean, the real problem is there's still going to be human drivers on the road for some years to come. That's the real problem.
Drunk, intoxicated, distracted, sleepy meatbags who are famously bad at tasks like driving, because throughout human history, driving is brand new. Cars didn't exist really when my grandparents were born. I mean, they did, but not where they lived. So the whole concept is quite new, and we haven't had much time to get used to it. And fortunately, it should be winding down sometime soon.
Okay. Thank you both. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Larry. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you guys. Tune in every Wednesday when we have this live stream, 11 a.m. Pacific time. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.